Welcome. Thank you for being here. Today in Luxembourg, where I live, the weather is very foggy and dark, but I'm here to tell you about something interesting. So get comfortable and have a pen and a paper with you to take notes. That will allow you to really learn and arm yourself against manipulators. In part 1, I talked about negative and positive manipulation. Positive manipulation is commonly known as emotional blackmail. I also introduced the 6 subtypes of this main type, which are the omnipotent, the overtly aggressive, the martyr, the cold, the justice-seeking, and the charming emotional blackmailer. I then outline the forms of gaslighting. If you haven't seen this video, I suggest you watch it. Oh, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe so you will get notified each time I publish a new video. I'm Marianna Monadezső, a clinical psychologist, cognitive behavioral therapist, and a life coach. In this video, I will continue with the strategies of manipulators and how to recognize them. Also, what the manipulator game is. Here's the 4th main type. This takes the form of deception, intrigue, and covert, ambiguous messages or insinuations. It aims to deceive and confuse the victim. It includes lying, making excuses and distorting facts, or very smart, cunning methods by which the manipulator makes you believe that you are to blame for what is happening to you. So, you feel bad about yourself. Of course, it's never his fault. If he shouts at you, you provoked it. If he cheats on you, it's because you have gained 6 pounds in the last few months. Or because you have changed the color of your hair. If he throws away money, if he can't find a job, if he's frustrated, if he's angry, it's all your fault. You can be sure that he will twist the situation in such a way that you will start to doubt yourself. You end up wondering if maybe he's right. He is also able to formulate sentences in a way that sounds like compliments. But if you listen carefully, you will realize that he's actually criticizing you. Typical sentences for this is that I love you even though you have ugly skin, or that I won't divorce you, honey, even if you can't graduate from college within the next 10 years. Your brain successfully collects these latent messages. You don't even notice that your self-confidence is gradually being eroded, and you end up giving in completely. Also typical of this type of manipulation is the deliberate withholding of key facts, withholding of information, exaggeration, and rigid, one-sided presentation of situations. This is basically a distortion of reality. Type 5 manipulation is purposeful helplessness. Those who use it target your helpfulness, sense of duty, caring instinct, and empathy. Their strategy is to make you feel guilty. This is the method of a close relative who often complains about his illnesses, financial difficulties, or loneliness. The neighbor who tries to take advantage of you by telling you tragic childhood memories or a recent horror story. Or the friend who regularly sends you covert reproaches, saying you never have time for her. From the victim, who you are supposed to feel sorry for or who needs help, you may hear complaining, moaning comments several times a week. She tells you that it would have been so nice to talk yesterday. She was so down. But you wrote that you didn't have time to stop by for a coffee. Or here's another manipulative sentence. Oh, I should go grocery shopping, but my feet hurt so much. And the bus station is quite far. My feet swell up in the evening if I move around a lot, you know. Otherwise, she's fine. She just wants you to have pity for her and drive her to the shop. She doesn't ask you openly to help her because she's scared that you will say no. So she is indirectly trying to get you to do what she wants. This type actually pretends that they terribly need you or your help, so make you do things you wouldn't normally do. They cleverly use to achieve their own ends until you finally realize that you have been taking care of them while completely neglecting yourself and your own needs. Of course, it's okay to ask for help from time to time, but this kind of manipulator is taking advantage of you very often. She or he asks for help even when they could easily complete a task. They are subconsciously motivated by the idea that if you say yes, they will feel important. But of course, they would never admit this to you. The sixth and final type is bullying and intimidation. This is the most brutal level of manipulation. People who apply these methods are often perverted narcissists or sometimes psychopaths who achieve their goals by means of overt aggression, such as physical and psychological violence, moral or psychological harassment, sexual abuse, deprivation of material resources, torture, brainwashing, or restraint, and thus by illegal acts without any remorse, regret, or compassion. If you would like to learn more about manipulators, I recommend the book by Dr. George Simon called In Sheep's Clothing. This is a professionally thorough book that is accessible to all and helps us to recognize latent aggressive behavior. It illustrates with case studies the techniques most commonly used by manipulators and gives advice on how to deal with them. But the question that arises is, how can you protect yourself against manipulators, right? The truth is that as long as you have low self-esteem and doubt yourself, this is impossible. To be able to defend yourself, you must first of all have a deep knowledge of who you are and understand your behavior as much as your motivations. This includes an accurate knowledge of your most important needs, such as physical, emotional, social, intellectual, sexual, and spiritual needs. You must also know your universal human rights and core values, because only on this basis can you set your boundaries for yourself and others. A small digression. On my website, you will find a free downloadable article called The List of Universal Human Rights. I suggest you read it and make sure you are in line with the points. The very act of internalizing the points in the list will increase your self-esteem. To arm yourself, you also need to develop self-awareness so that you can recognize when your body and emotions are signaling that someone is trying to manipulate you. When we are being manipulated, we immediately or sometimes a little bit later, feel an uncomfortable tingling under our skin, as if something has crawled under it that we can't remove. Or there's a slight tension in our stomach, or muscles tighten. We often realize only later that we have been manipulated. I suggest that you keep a list of the feelings that made you realize you were being manipulated. Try to replay the scene in your mind and then determine when the first physical sensations and signals started. If you do this each time, you will learn not only to identify the signals earlier, but also the type of manipulation you were confronted with. It follows that you must know and know well the types of manipulation and how they manifest. And finally, you will need assertive communication techniques because it makes a difference what you say. You need to use the first person singular in declarative sentences, not passive-aggressive or evasive questions like, "How dare you talk to me like that?" Or, "Do you think it's fair?" Or, "Don't you think it hurts me?" Forget these types of sentences. They get you nowhere. Instead, tell it like it is. Say, "It hurts when you talk to me that way. Next time when it happens, I'm leaving the room. From now on, I will not accept A, B, C, D. For example, I will not accept you swearing in front of me, shouting at me, talking down to me, or continually comparing me to my mother." Substitute what you no longer want to accept, okay? This should give you an idea of why you need good self-confidence. Self-confidence and knowing your universal human rights will give you the courage to dare to say what bothers you, what you don't like, what you no longer accept from people, or what you want, and how you would like to be treated. And before I forget, the techniques to fend off manipulation will surround you like a buffer once you master them. So if you are dealing with a manipulator, whether it's a parent, a spouse, a boss, or a colleague, always do your utmost to share the minimum information with them. Do not tell them about yourself, your intentions, your plans, or your feelings, because they will use everything against you. In addition, you must learn to communicate with them in a different way. That is, to use the techniques to counter manipulation. This means responding to them with short, scrappy sentences and with lots of humor and irony when they criticize, tease, pick on, or humiliate or hurt you. You shouldn't get defensive or explain yourself at length when they question you, and you certainly shouldn't cry in front of them, because that only shows them your weaknesses, which they will abuse. And always keep in mind that they will use your empathy, your willingness to serve and help, and your sense of duty to achieve their own ends. They know which buttons to push to get you to do what they want you to do. If you are aware of these buttons, your weaknesses, you can pay more attention to yourself. For example, if you tend to help others without thinking, you can stop yourself when you want to help again. If you feel like opening up again, if you want to deal with the other person's problem again, if you want to save the other person, or meet his needs instead of your own, think of yourself first. You must consciously plan how you will and will not behave. The important thing is that your responses should be neutral. You must learn to pretend that you are not hurt or annoyed by what the other person says to you. The more you explain and defend yourself, the more you weaken your position. In these situations, you are so afraid of the other person or angry with them that you obsessively focus on them, forgetting about yourself. You want to clean yourself up even though he doesn't care about the truth. He only wants to win and dominate you by degrading you, by making you doubt yourself. So you need to change your approach and communication style. The aim of the counter-manipulation technique is to keep you emotionally stable so that the other person sees that it is not worth criticizing you, hurting you, or sucking your blood by complaining, because they can no longer get the reaction out of you that would fuel that inner strength. I will illustrate what I mean with a concrete example. Let's say your partner mocks you because you are 6 or 7 pounds overweight, which is not the end of the world. But you want to please him. So every time he remarks, "Are you eating again? What about the extra pounds?" you kindly explain, "I'm hungry, but I'm trying to eat less than usual, and I make sure I eat more steamed vegetables." In other words, you defend and explain yourself like a well-behaved little girl to her daddy, while giving your partner the opportunity to kick you even harder. And here comes another cynical interjection. "Come on, you have been saying that for months and nothing has happened, and nothing ever will." You feel helpless and very, very small when you hear this. You can see that the more you tell him, the more room you give him to attack you. That's why you have to make a firm decision to give him an answer next time that doesn't put you in a subordinate position. Say, you answer, "I'm comfortable in my skin as I am," or "We'll see." Or you just say, "I'll think about what you said." By the way, this is one of my favorite phrases. "I'll think about what you said." With sentences like that, you are more likely to feel an equal to your partner. And try to respond in the most neutral, innocent tone possible, regardless of how you feel inside. Is this clear? These self-affirming phrases will help you in the long run because you will learn to focus on yourself instead of another person's criticism. Also, be prepared. The other person will not like your new reaction because he will no longer be able to play emotional games with you, or at least not as often as before. He will poke and prod. He'll try to get a grip on you and attack you more and more fiercely. But all you have to do is repeat calmly, "I'll think about what you said." Not a word more. And don't pull any faces, okay? By taking this approach, you reduce the chances of another person continuing to use you as a source of energy. You will find that the dynamics between the two of you will change if you persevere. This brings me to the end of the video. If you need a small guide in your pocket, I recommend my ebook in which I summarize the characteristics of manipulators. I also write about the skills that help you prevent manipulation, what to do against manipulators, and there's also a list in the book that contains advice and over 100 simple sentences. I suggest you learn at least 10-15 of these phrases and try to use them in the relevant situations. These can be your strategy sentences. After a while, you will feel empowered. Just keep practicing. Don't give up before you get started. You know that almost nothing happens overnight. The ebook costs just €15 plus 3% of VAT. You can buy it on my website here. It's not expensive, but it's really useful. I hope I have given you valuable information on this topic that you can integrate into your daily life. If you enjoy the content, please share the video with others. I would be delighted if you gave it a like. Thank you. Should you want to dive into the topic further in a consultation, please feel free to contact me at one of my email addresses below. You can also find my email addresses as well as the link to my website at the end of the description text below the video. See you soon and take care of yourself.